Okay, welcome everyone to another show of Lou's Boomer Humor. Today we got a game for you today, and I think you're going to like it. Well, we'll see if you like it or not, and wait for you to participate. Let me get it all set up here. Hope you can see that all right. Okay, the name of the game is the Boomer DNA game. Okay, now I'll tell you a little bit about it in just a second. Before I do that, a number of you have been sending me ideas and so forth, and also I've been handing out, the sticker. Okay, been sending it out. What I'd like you to do though is to send me your postal address to loumacaluso@gmail.com Freudian slip, or my contact page loumacalusoauthor.com, and go to the contact page and do that. And again, I'm not going to mess with your postal address, sending you stuff you don't want, but I got plenty of these, and I'd like you to use them and send them out as much as you can, and we can just go from there. Okay, the other thing I want to remind you of real quickly, last commercial announcement here, is try to share this if you can with other people, and by hitting share on the Facebook page. And if you want to become a subscriber, just go to youtube.com and look up Lou's Boomer Humor, and we can go from there. Okay, let's talk a little bit now about the game, the Boomer DNA game. Let me tell you basically what this is about. A friend of mine, Paul, and I won't tell you his last name because it's a long Polish name. I don't want to mispronounce Satkowski. So anyway, Paul is a friend of mine, known him way back, and he sent me an idea, and here's, by the way, here's Palermo. He's the prop man here. Okay, yeah, the props are in place, Palermo, don't worry about it. Okay, and anyway, he sent me an idea that let's take athletes or sports figures from the Boomer age, let's compare them to people today. Well, it's a good idea, but I decided that what might be a better idea or a similar idea is an idea I was working on before that, and it's called the Boomer DNA Mix Game. Let me show you how it works. Here's just an educational thing with regard to it. Okay, we'll start out with something like this. A Boomer celebrity, and we mix the two celebrities' DNA, and we come up with a celebrity of today. Okay, here's how it works. This is a guy, by the way, a lot of you baby boomers may not recognize this guy, even though he was from our age, because he was popular right around most of us were being born, in the late 40s, early 50s. This is Bob Richards. He was an Olympic champion in the pole vault and the high jump, and you may remember him vaguely though, because he became the spokesman for Wheaties, during our Saturday morning kids shows and all of that. He became a guy that was on the Wheaties box, not the first, but one of the most prominent. All right, this is Bob Richards, fantastic Olympic champion. Now, if we take his DNA and we mix it with another Boomer celebrity from the 50s and 60s, Marilyn Monroe, I don't have to tell you anything more about that. We could get only one particular thing from today, and that would be Caitlyn Jenner, okay, Olympic champion, okay, woman, okay, and all that kind of thing. Okay, you get the idea, don't you? All right, that's just kind of an educational thing. I got a couple more here I want to show you, and then maybe you can get a better idea. We got another sports figure here. They're not all sports figures, by the way. This particular one is Wilt Chamberlain, Wilt to Stilts. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but Wilt to Stilts actually started as a Harlem Globetrotter. But he was the first and only NBA player to score 100 points in one game. Okay, as great as Michael Jordan, he was the first to do that. You know, great player. All right, let's take another icon from the 50s and 60s in a different field altogether. Phyllis Diller. All right, Phyllis Diller was a comedian. They used to say comedian back then, but comedian. And she was a very funny lady, but she had this wild blonde hair, you know, and this wild look on her face and kind of crazy out there. That was the essence and the formula for her humor. And of course, we can only get one thing, and that would be Dennis Rodman. All right, NBA player, and that's about all I can say. All right. Got another example that has nothing to do with athletics, really. But this guy was actually one of my heroes. I'm a English literary writer guy, okay? And I know he's got a real strange look on his face, but this is James Baldwin. James Baldwin was a great writer in the 50s and early 60s. He was also a playwright. He wrote Blues for Mr. Charlie, Go Tell It to the Mountain, all kinds of things. And he was kind of one of my idols. Quick story. I almost met James Baldwin back in my early days when I was, in my early 20s, very early 20s, before I was married. And I got to tell you, quite honestly, when I was dating back then, my standards were not really all that high. Okay, as a matter of fact, a friend of mine once said, Lou, I think the only way you're ever going to date a 10 is to date 5 2s. But anyway, I was with this girl on a date, and I'd taken her to a play downtown. And I'm standing in the will call line to pick up our tickets, and lo and behold, I look, and there's James Baldwin, one of my idols. And, it had to be him because he had he has a distinct look. And he's looking, and I also knew he was in town because he had done a talk show here in Chicago called Cups Corner. But anyway, there he is. And so I turned to my date, to try to impress her. I go, hey, but I want him to hear, that's James Baldwin. And she turns to me with all of her culture and goes, so who the fuck is James Baldwin? Okay? And so here's James Baldwin. He turns around with the bulging eyes looking towards me. And, I handled it very maturely and the way, you should. I turned around with him and tried to look for the person who said it in the back of the room. Anyway, that's my James Baldwin story. James Baldwin, let's mix him with the Jolly Green Giant. Remember that on the can of peas? All right, the Jolly Green Giant. Only one thing we can come up with there, and that is today the Geico lizard, or the Geico, okay? All right, got one more for you. One more for you. This one I like especially, and all of you will remember this. You remember Lassie? Well, I can't do the thing, but anyway, Lassie. And in reality, Lassie started in the early 50s with a kid named Jeff. And he was on for a few years, and then, but most people remember Lassie, by the way, is the dog. Lassie and Timmy. And actually, it was on Sunday nights, I think at 6 o'clock. Actually, there was really only one formula plot, and everything was just a variation of that. Timmy getting some peril, like fall down a well. Nobody was around but Lassie, who would bark at the well and realize that didn't happen. She'd run home, jump through the window, do something like, I don't know, write a note in the mashed potatoes, and they'd all come and save Timmy, and that was that story. Now there was another boy and dog series back then on Saturday mornings called Rin Tin Tin and Rusty. Actually, this is from a comic book that was a spin-off from that, but this was a story of, instead of a collie, this was a German Shepherd, and a boy about 10 years old who somehow was in the cavalry. I never could quite figure that out. But anyway, Rusty was in the cavalry. And this also had a formula plot. But it was a little bit, today it would be, I think, kind of politically incorrect. As a matter of fact, if I read this on here, if I can read it here, put my glasses on. To prove Rusty's faith in him, an old Indian fighter clashes with 5 lawless men. Okay, see, back then the cavalry, because this was the 19th century, would kill Indians, Native Americans. So they were the good guys. The guys that were trying to save the Indians, like we are today, were the bad guys. And basically the formula was there'd be some guys there that were the bad guys, and somehow they'd get Rusty away from the cavalry somehow and get him in peril. And then Rusty would somehow, Rennie'd show up, and he had this, "Yo-ho, Rennie!" That's what he used to say. And Rennie would jump at the guys and literally chew their asses out like they were raw rump roast. But anyway, if you took the DNA from Lassie, you mixed it up with the DNA of Rin Tin Tin, and I really think that you might come up with a litter of pups that look something like the Duck Dynasty guys. I don't know, it's just my deal, like my hippie cousin would say. It could happen, okay. Anyway, that's how you play the game, all right? Now, if any of you wish to help me out with this, we're going to do other topics and so forth, but if you get ideas for this, like two people from the boomer generation and what they might, if you mix their DNA, send them to me at loumacaluso@gmail.com. You don't have to send the visuals. I'll make the visuals myself. Or loumacalusoauthor.com. And I'll put it together and I'll give you credit right here on the show. Okay? Give you a little exposure there, a little 15 seconds of fame or whatever. But send me those, and I'll also send you a sticker. Also, if you just want a sticker, send me this information. I'll send it to you. Okay, that's our show for today. Remember, if you liked it, or even if you didn't, try to hit share if you're doing this on Facebook. If you want to become a YouTube subscriber, just go to youtube.com, look up Lou's Boomer Humor, and just, put your thing on there, and then we'll send you this automatically, and we'll do that. Anyway, hope you had a good time. I sure did. We'll see you next week or in the weeks to come. Bye now.